What's up, guys? Theo here, doing a quick prediction for Steve Erceg versus Matt Schnell. So right now, Steve Erceg is a minus 480 favorite, and the comeback on Matt Schnell is plus 315. And guys, I like Steve Erceg here. I think Matt Schnell is a bit underrated as a fighter, to be honest with you. But the thing that I'm seeing with Steve Erceg is he's got very composed pressure, is always moving forward, seems to have a decent amount of power, and he's fighting like a guy who's really not afraid to get into a scrap. And that's kind of where Matt Schnell, really his advantage lies when he gets into fights. He's not the most technical guy, doesn't have the most cardio, and he doesn't even have a very good chin, to be honest. Recently, these weight cuts have been a big issue for him, and they've been affecting his performance in the cage, you can tell. So I would actually even be surprised if he makes weight for this. Maybe he already did, I'm not sure, but his chin's touchy at this point in his career. And against a guy who's kind of as technically sound as Steve Erceg is, that's going to be very bad, because where Matt Schnell has managed to kind of like pull off comebacks in recent memory, like against Sumadarji and whatnot, it's where he can make the fight really chaotic. It's where he can kind of like out-grit his opponent and take advantage of his opponent basically becoming sloppy, making mistakes, and that is when he can basically win these fights, is when he can take advantage of that chaos. And I don't think Steve Erceg is really going to present that to him. From what I've seen in Erceg's last two fights against Alessandro Costa and I forget who the other guy was, David Dvorak, he fought against both of them. You know, they were fairly competitive fights. The opponents put up a fight the whole time. David Dvorak, I felt like really didn't show up for that fight. But regardless, Steve Erceg still looked good in there. And he looked good against Costa as well. And Alessandro Costa is a pretty good fighter. He's also fairly underrated. So I just kind of like what I see from Erceg so far, and until we have some kind of a reason to like fade against him here with one of these low-level UFC fighters, like maybe something we see in this fight, then I might pick against him in the future. I don't think he's necessarily like worth this price, so I wouldn't bet him here, but I do feel confident that Steven Erceg wins, just based on the fact that, you know, he's very tight, very fundamental, he seems to have power. When he does get grazed and clipped by shots, it doesn't shut him down the way that it shuts down Matt Schnell. Matt Schnell gets clipped and hit with shots by guys that don't even have as much power as Steven Erceg, and he's coming like within seconds of getting knocked out in TKO. The only reason he's not is because he's fighting guys that aren't capitalizing on this, and Steve Erceg just seems too game and too locked in when he's fighting, I think, to make that kind of mistake. So I just think he's got too many advantages here against Matt Schnell, who is getting a little older. He's been in the UFC for many, many years. He's got a lot of fight miles on him, and he's been falling apart in recent performances. And even though that has created some very exciting fights, it's not what you want to see in a betting scenario, especially not against a guy. I mean, maybe if Steven Erceg had shown some kind of like huge holes in his game or something. I did not do a ton of regional tape study on Steve Erceg, so I don't really know like if there's anything to be uncovered in his regional tape. But what I did see in his UFC level fights, I liked. So, I mean, I doubt I'm going to see anything on his regional level tape when he's looked very composed, and he's looked very good, and he's looked solidly UFC level against the competition he's been against so far. So I think this is a bit of a layup. I think Erceg is going to have to slip on a banana peel or something to lose this fight. So yeah, pick is going to be Steven Erceg, guys. Keep it locked in. We're going to try to get the rest of these picks out before Saturday.